Si creciste en los 90, seguro conoces a los Power Rangers, esos héroes que marcaron nuestra infancia. Y por supuesto recordarás a Zordon. Hoy te traigo una entrevista exclusiva con David Fielding, el actor detrás de ese mítico mentor que nos cuenta secretos y anécdotas de la serie que nunca viste en pantalla. Así que bueno amigos, si quieren saber más de Zordon y los Power Rangers, ya se la saben, acompáñenme. Okay friends, so here we are. And we have, I don't know, David Fielding or Zordon with us in this opportunity. Thank you so much for staying with us.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. Happy to be a part of the show.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's run a quick icebreaker. Would you like to introduce yourself? I'm pretty sure that everyone watching this video knows you, but let's go ahead.
Yeah. My name is David J. Fielding. I'm an actor or a former actor and a writer. I'm most well known for playing the character of Zordon on the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
So, how did you land the role of Zordon?
So it's a little bit of an involved explanation, but I'll try to get through it as quickly as possible. I fell in love with the craft of acting in high school, and eventually started my Bachelor of Fine Arts degree in San Marcos, Texas at Southwest Texas State University. And I made a lot of great friends while I was there. And then in the late 80s, I became part of a master's degree program in the state of Pennsylvania. And a lot of my friends, when they graduated from Southwest, they moved out to California. And once I was done with the master's degree program in the summer of 1992, I moved out to California. So I had a large network of friends that I could meet up with and talk about things and learn the ins and outs of Los Angeles, because I'd never been there before, and it's a big city. One of the friends that I had made at Southwest was a wonderful woman by the name of Stacy Fish, who was working at Saban Entertainment at the time on a lot of their straight-to-video movies that they were doing. I had only been in Los Angeles for 2 months. I had arrived in August, and this was sometime in October. She called me up and said, hey, I'm working on this kids' television pilot. I think there's a role for you. Would you like to come down and audition for it? I said, yeah, sure. That's why I came to LA, was to see if I could audition and get parts and try to get on a TV show or be in a movie or something like that. And I went down there thinking that it was going to be a cattle call, that there would be like 15,000 other guys waiting to read for this part. They would put me on tape, and then I would go home and I would never hear anything again. But what happened was I got down to the building where they were having the audition, and it was just me and another guy. And,
oh, wow.
They said, we plan on casting this tonight. Are you available to film next week if we cast you? And I was like, yes, of course I will be. And we separated and went to two different corners in the room and went over the lines that we've been given. And he went into the room first, and about 20 minutes later, he came out. I went in, I met the director, I met the original cast, I met some of the studio people, and then they had me stand up on a table and read the lines. And Austin St. John said, well, I think we found our Zoltar, which was the name of the character at the time. And then I went home, and a couple hours later, I got a phone call saying, congratulations, you've been cast. And that's how I got the part.
Wow. Awesome. Wow. I can't believe it was only 2 guys auditioning for the role.
Yeah. And they had already been filming the pilot for a number of weeks, and they had gotten down to like the last week of filming. And I'm not sure why they hadn't cast it ahead of time, but they did this sort of like last minute character audition, and I was lucky enough to be the right guy at the right time in the right place. So
excellent. Wow. And what did you know about the project before getting involved, if you knew something?
Oh no, I didn't know anything about it at all until I got there. And it was the project at the time was called Dino Rangers, and the character was was Zoltar at the time, which they had to change because I guess that name was used in another movie or something like that. And that was the first I'd ever heard of it. When they explained to me what it was, I was very familiar with Japanese TV shows that had been brought over to the States before, like Ultraman and Spectre Man and Battle for the Planets and that sort of thing. So, and I used to love watching those things when I was in high school. So I was very familiar with the idea of them doing a mashup of American footage with Japanese footage and the mecha and the kaiju. I was all about that. I'm like, this is awesome. And I was a big nerd. I played D&D and all that kind of stuff. So I was very excited to be a part of a superhero show. I thought that was very cool.
It definitely was. Well, it's still cool. So how was the experience of filming this, I would say, iconic scenes as Zordon phase?
It was bittersweet, actually, because the filming of it was great because it was the first time that I had been on a set in Los Angeles, and it really wasn't much of a set. It was just this old warehouse in Studio City that they had a big green screen behind me, and they had shaved all my hair off and darkened my eyebrows and glued my ears back. So the only thing that was going to show up on the screen was my face. And but the shoot went really well. I sat in front of the camera and the lights for about 4.5 hours while we did the lines over and over, and met the cast again because they were reading their lines to me while we were doing the introduction of Zordon, bringing them to the command center for the first time. And then they applauded me because it was, they announced that it was my first job in LA, and people got excited about that. And then I went to my nighttime job and, and just sort of like went on with my life. And at this point, the show had not been picked up. It was just a pilot. And the way that pilots work is they film all these pilots, and then they submit them to the studios to see if they're going to be good enough to be picked up. And so I wasn't expecting it to go anywhere. I mean, because they do so many of those pilots, and so many of those shows don't get picked up. But like 3 weeks later, I guess, I got a phone call saying, congratulations, the show's been picked up. And I'm like, that's great. When do I report to set? And they're like, oh, well, we're not going to film you anymore. We're just going to bring you in to do voices. So I really felt like it was kind of a letdown to be cast in the show and then never do any more on-camera work, which is what I really, really wanted to do. I really wanted to get that experience of being on set every day and being part of that that show family that the other guys got to have an experience. Of course, they had a much harder experience than I did because they were working 6 days a week, 16-hour days for, putting all those episodes together. So on one hand, I got off kind of easy because I would just have to go in and do voices for the character. But I also felt very disconnected from the show because I wasn't with them every day. I wasn't on set with them. It was rather bittersweet. It was really cool to be a part of the show. It was really great to see my name at the front credits when it was finally aired. But I also felt greatly distanced from the show because I was never around anybody that was on it. So, yeah.
Yeah, but so even when they have leveraged your face, but they kept you recording, being the voice, right, of Zordon, did you share the working time with the rest of the cast, or it was like a separate room or something like that?
Yeah, whenever I would go into the voice, it was generally just me and the engineer and maybe Tony Oliver, who was the head writer, who would explain what was going on in the show at this point and why Zordon was saying these lines the way he was saying them. But for the most part, I didn't see the cast again for another 20 years. Until I went to my first Power Morphicon and got reintroduced to them. So, yeah, it was kind of a wild experience.
Yeah, definitely, because of course I already knew this, right? But reading on the internet and seeing other interviews. But I remember when I first heard about this, it was kind of surprising, right? Because for a fan, right? People watching at the show, we think that you guys are all together, working together. These guys are,
right,
spending a lot of time together, probably even after, after working hours or something. Yeah. It was shocking, I guess.
It's also kind of par for the course. I mean, a lot of shows are made that way with people doing their parts over here, and they never meet up with the other people until much later on. And what the kids don't realize watching it at home is that the show was made for one reason and one reason only, and that reason was to sell toys. So they were trying to make the show as cheaply as possible so that they could gain all of their investment back through these toys that they were selling. And that was the really unique thing about Power Rangers, was that when you think about shows like He-Man or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, those shows came on the air and kids had to wait 6 months or maybe even longer before the toys actually hit the shelves so that they could play with them. The day that the Power Rangers went on the air, the toys were already on the shelves. So kids were playing with the toys while they were watching the show. And that, I think, was one of the things that just propelled it into the stratosphere and made it, it's still like the #1 kids TV show in its demographic for its age group. I don't think that record's been broken yet. So, yeah.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that. Okay, the first show is released. Before that, did you have access to see the first material once finished before it was released to the TV?
Yeah, I did get to see like the original pilot. I think Tony showed it to me in private or something, and this was the one that they showed on TV much later, where Zordon looks like a big green blob of Jello. And I guess they got back some feedback from the studio saying the character of Zordon or Zoltar is a little too undefined or a little too scary for kids. So can we clean that up? And so I'm very glad that they did that, because you can actually tell that it's my face now. And had they stuck with that sort of green blobby thing, it could have been just anybody. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, true. Absolutely. Yeah. What was your reaction the first time you saw the finished show on television?
I thought it was super cheesy, but also super cool at the same time, because I grew up watching Ultraman and Godzilla, and all of those fights between the monsters were always so cheesy and fun. And you know, the monsters would crash into buildings and the buildings would fall over, and you could tell they were cardboard. But I really enjoyed seeing the Zords for the first time, and how they were all dinosaur themed or prehistoric themed, and the pterodactyl and the triceratops and the saber-toothed tiger, and then having them all come together to create this giant mecha that would have this sword and wield it. And I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, I still think that is really cool. So my daughter is 6 years old, and we're about to finish Thundercats, but she's already seen. We already watched a few episodes, because now Power Rangers is on Netflix.
Yeah.
The whole season, right? So we already watched a few episodes here and there, and she's like, okay, once we're done with Thundercats, we start Power Rangers. And I'm like, oh yes, let's just start Power Rangers.
I think my brother actually had that toy that you have right behind you on your shoulder.
This messenger, the big one.
Yeah. He had that one. Doesn't that one have like? Doesn't the fist separate from the hand? Don't they shoot out?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. This is part of the Shogun Warriors line.
Yeah, Shogun Warriors. Yeah.
Pretty cool. What Zordon, the character, represents to you personally, if represents something, especially after all these years later?
I think Zordon is a very unique mentor character in children's superhero fiction type shows. If you look at other shows with similar themes, most notably Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the mentor character actually physically helps his students at some point. Master Splinter would join in the fight with the Turtles and actually battles Shredder himself. Zordon himself cannot do that. Zordon is trapped in a time warp. He's just a large floating head, and the only thing that Zordon can do is inspire through his belief in his students and the words that he uses. And I think that's very unique. And I try to honor that whenever I do conventions and meet fans who want to, thank me for my contribution to the show and stuff like that. So I think Zordon represents a force of good in the world, and I try to maintain that level whenever I talk about the show or listen to stories that people have about how much the show meant to them, and I try to honor that as much as I can. Zordon, I think, is he's just a great character, especially since they expanded his background in the Boom Studios comics and did a lot more with him than they were able to do on the show, because Zordon was an American invention for the Zoo Ranger Sentai that they took the footage from. There was no Zordon equivalent in the show, which is why there were no Zordon toys when they first came out. Had there been a toy for Zordon, I'm fairly certain that I would have stayed on the show and been more a part of it. I probably would have been more on set with the guys had that been the case, but because there wasn't a toy, Zordon was sort of like given this real sort of third row kind of treatment where, you know, we'll bring him in when we need him, but other than that, we don't think about him too much. So, but yeah, I think Zordon's great.
Yeah, I'm with you. Where you were talking about fans, and do you still receive messages or meet people who were impacted by your role or Power Rangers? Well, I guess myself, I'm an example, right?
Yeah. I mean, I meet people that are 35, 40 years old who watch the show, and it's starting to get into the third generation of people that introduced it to their kids who are now introducing it to their grandkids. And it's really great to see that it's still got a life of its own and people learn about the character. And I get messages all the time or cameo requests, you know, can you wish my brother happy birthday in the Zordon voice and that sort of thing. And so Zordon lives, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yes, absolutely. Zordon lives. So how is your experience attending conventions and meeting Power Rangers community and fans?
It's been very surreal and very humbling to know that people all around the world know who I am. That's kind of crazy. Power Rangers was broadcast to 40 different countries during the 90s, and in syndication, I think it's gone even further than that. Once I left Los Angeles and left the show, I sort of forgot about it for a long time. And this was before the internet. This was before social media. So whenever we did the show, and I thought, well, this is something that'll probably last for a year, maybe two. But it was going to be another one of those Saturday morning cartoon shows that was on the air, and then it would be replaced by something else, you know, a year down the line or something like that. And so I kind of forgot about it and just went on my life and lived on the East Coast and got involved in doing voices and stuff for video games. And then when Facebook came along and I joined Facebook, I started to get messages from strangers asking me if I played Zordon on the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And I was like, yeah, whatever happened to that show? And then I started doing some digging, and I'm like, oh, wow, it's still going on, and it's a different season and different actors. And, oh, wow, I guess I better do my homework and catch up on this. And I attended my first real convention called Tekashokan in Pittsburgh in 2011. And that was the first time I sat on a stage in front of fans and heard stories about what the show did for them and how it impacted them. And it made me realize, oh, wow, this is something that's really, really important to people. Because for me, it was a small job that I had that paid me very little money, but it was a very nice story that I could tell to people at parties. Oh, yeah, I was on a kids' TV show. But then I started to realize, no, it's a lot bigger than that. And then when I attended my first Power Morphicon in 2014, I got a real eye-opening experience about how big the fandom actually is and how many people are crazy for Power Rangers. And then I started doing conventions regularly with the original cast and got to go to dinner with them and get to know them so much more better than I did when we actually worked on the show.
And any memorabilia from your times as Zordon that you treasure?
The only memorabilia I took away from the show were these two Polaroid pictures that they had taken during the makeup test, where they had shaved all my hair off and slathered me with green paint. Those were the only things I had because I wasn't on the set. I never visited the command center. I never saw the inside set for the command center. I did see the inside of the Juice Bar set. But other than that, I didn't have any memorabilia or anything to take with me. I had my original contract for the longest time, but I don't know what happened to that. And I had like some original flyers from the toys that they would send out to the toy stores. But other than that, I didn't have anything. No.
Wow. And I'm still shocked that by the fact that you never went to the control center, the command center.
Never have.
Did you ever ask to have access to the command center or not?
I never really had the chance to. I mean, they were working really hard putting the show together, and I was working another job. And whenever I would get called in to come to do voices, I was only there for a half hour, maybe 40 minutes at the most. And it never really came up about, hey, do you want to visit the set, or do you want to, do anything else? And I was never approached, or I never felt like I had the opportunity to knock on the door and say, hey, is there another role I could possibly do, or something like that. And I was very naive. I was very new to Los Angeles, and I was doing auditions for other shows and stuff. And it led to me, figuring out fairly early, after about a year there, that, I don't think Los Angeles is kind of the vibe for me. I think I need to do something else. I went out to Los Angeles very late in life. Most aspiring actresses and actors go out there in their very early 20s, and they pound the pavement to try to get jobs, and they put up with a mountain of crap from audition to audition. And I went out there when I was 29. I turned 30 during the production of the show, and so my crap meter was very low. I wasn't willing to put up with a whole lot of crap that I would have had I been much younger. And so I had made the decision that, I don't really think this is the thing for me. Plus, I really wasn't the type that was getting cast very often. I wasn't a tall leading man. I wasn't round enough to be the funny friend. I was just like what they would cast it normally as an extra, or maybe a one-liner, or somebody who has 5 lines in the show. That would have been my career. And I kind of wanted a different experience. And since I wasn't going to get that, I made the decision that, okay, well, I gave it a shot. I came out to Los Angeles. I saw what it was all about. Lucky enough to get casted on a TV show, and I had my name on the front of the credits. And to me, that checked off that box and said, congratulations, you did what you came out here to do. Now go back and do something else. And that's the road I took.
Yeah, makes total sense.
Yeah.
And I understand Zordon has returned in video games and other formats, right? Were you part of any of these projects?
When Kyle Higgins wrote the Shattered Grid comic for Boom, where Lord Draken comes in and defeats a lot of the Rangers, and that character's the lines that Kyle had written for the character were incorporated into a video fighting game for Power Rangers, where the Power Rangers would fight one-on-one. And I actually ended up doing the voice of Zordon for that. So yeah, Zordon has made his way into other media. For a while there, I think someone was floating around the idea that, maybe Power Rangers could be an animated show. And I thought that was a great idea, because that way they could bring us all back to do the original voices. And that would have been a second life for the character, which would have been nice.
So I remember in Power Rangers, once and always, I guess many fans, or including myself, hoped for a Zordon reference, right? It's because it's such a, I don't know, cool thing when they bring back the very original characters after some seasons, and many TV shows did that, right? Honestly, I was kind of disappointed, but I would like to hear your perspective. Would you have liked to be involved in that special?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, I think because everybody for the longest time was Zordon is dead and gone, because Andros shattered the power chamber, and Zordon's energy dispersed and turned all the putties to dust and turned the bad guys into good guys. So nobody wanted to bring Zordon back, because they felt like that would be a stain on his memory. His sacrifice would have been for nothing if they bring him back. But I've always maintained that Zordon was never destroyed, because he was trapped in a time warp, and he was projecting himself into this dimensional reality. So when Andros shattered the power chamber, it just severed the connection, and Zordon is out there in some other dimension. And I think that was sort of like the basis of what Billy was doing in Once and Always. He knew that Zordon was out there. They just wanted to go find him. And of course, there was a mess up, and they brought the Robo Rita in, and I think Zed made an appearance or something like that. But yeah, it would have been really cool to have been contacted and say, hey, we'd like to have in some way or fashion have a cameo from Zordon. Are you willing to do that? And I would have been like, of course I am, because I knew that the fans would go crazy over that. They would love that so much. During that show, I think afterwards in the next season of Cosmic Fury, I think it was, when the character of Zato becomes one with the grid and actually is talking to a friend and said, there was a phrase I used to say, oh yes, may the power protect you. And I thought that would have been a great opportunity to have me actually say those lines along with Zato, so you could hear Zordon's voice coming through the character.
Oof.
And I think that would have been a very sort of goosebump chilling moment for fans had they seen something like that.
I'm having goosebumps right now just hearing this idea, man.
Yeah.
Wow, too bad they didn't do that, man, honestly.
Yeah.
As I said, I was kind of disappointed, but anyway, is what it is. So what are your thoughts on how Power Rangers has evolved over the years, including the reboots?
I think it's great that it's such a part of the pop culture zeitgeist that an old booking agent of mine used to say there are the big three. There's Star Wars, Star Trek, and Power Rangers. And I would see them at every convention. There was always somebody from Star Trek or somebody from Star Wars, and there was always Power Rangers. And everybody is always cosplaying as Power Rangers. And there are so many toys. There are so many different seasons of the show with different characters and different action sequences, and it's kind of like the gift that keeps on giving. It's just and on the same note, it's sort of like it's the thing that'll never die. It's always going to be there. So as long as it maintains the heart of what Power Rangers is all about, I say keep going with it.
Yeah. So did you watch all the episodes where your voice was still on the show?
Yeah. I only did the voice for the first 31 episodes, so that's not a lot. It's only like the first half of season 1. And I think in the original shooting lineup, they only had 40 episodes booked for the first season. But because it took off and was doing so well, Fox Kids said, "Hey, we want to order 20 more episodes." So they had to continue shooting while the show was being broadcast on the air. And but like I said, during that time, I had reached sort of a stopping moment for me, where it's like I'm not really doing what I came out here to do. I was emotionally and mentally burnt out, and I was always afraid I was a week away from living under a bridge because working 2 jobs. And yeah, I was on a TV show, but I wasn't getting paid TV show money.
Right.
Right. And bills had to be paid and that sort of thing. And for me, it was just sort of like, well, and Tony was like, if you could just stick it out for 6 months, things will turn around. I'm like, I don't know, man. I just don't know. And then when I went into the meeting with Haim, and Haim said, "You want to leave?" And I said, "Well, I'm kind of burned out in LA." And he goes, "Okay, well, leave. We'll find another voice." I'm like, okay. And that was kind of a very telling moment for me, that it just showed that they didn't want to fight for me. They thought of me as replaceable, and they replaced me. So, and again, it was, at the time, it wasn't as big as it is now. It was just a show. And so it was easy to let it go then. In hindsight, I wish I had stuck it out another 6 months to see where it had gone. And would I have been part of the movie? I don't know. Those are always what if questions and that sort of thing. But yeah.
No, very clear. Well, man, to me, you did a really good job.
Thank you.
On this, what I'm gonna say, it's the truth. I don't want you to think that I'm making this up because you're in my interview. No. Every time when I have discussions, I have geek discussions. I'm a 40 years old mature adult man, but still, and let's do this, but still with my all my
Yeah.
collect toys and that stuff. So when I have my geeks conversation with friends and talk about Power Rangers, I always say, no, Zordon is the Power Rangers leader. And oh man, and that opens a large discussion, right?
Yeah, of course.
He's the main leader. He put together the team, man. That's the leader. And he was, being what a leader does. He was commanding, empowering, coaching. So people will have different perspectives about that. That is my perspective. So that's why you are in the show with me.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that very much. That means a lot.
So if I did my homework correctly, and I hope I did it, I understand that you are also a writer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
you want to talk about that? What are you doing? What do you write?
I was writing a lot of what they call speculative fiction, short stories that have to do with different genres like steampunk or fantasy or superhero fiction or pulp fiction, like pulp heroes like the Shadow and the Spider and Doc Savage, those kind of heroes. Because that's the kind of stuff that I love. That's the kind of stuff that I grew up on. And I wanted to be Tarzan when I was a little kid. I wanted to swing through the jungle and fight bad guys and punch Nazis in the face. And that's one of the main reasons I became an actor, is because I wanted to play those parts. I wanted to be bigger than life. And so those are the kind of stories that I write. And I was a huge fan of like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings and Dungeons and Dragons. So all through my 20s and my early 30s, I was a fantasy fanatic. I would read a lot of fantasy books, and I would try to write fantasy stories, and it's very hard. And then at some point, I became very disillusioned with fantasy, because what fantasy tells us is that the good guys win, that light triumphs over dark, and that everything works out in the end. And that's a great message for kids and young adults, because we all need hope in life. We all need something to look forward to. The idea that the sun is always going to come up the next morning is very important. But as I got older, I became much more disillusioned with, why are we telling ourselves these stories when we don't see that reflected in the real world, where the happy ending doesn't always work out, where the good guys don't always win. And so I became very disillusioned with fantasy, and I was struggling for a long time in my writing, trying to figure out, what can I do to sort of recapture that sort of love of hope, that love of seeing the good guys win at the end. And I thought, okay, well, what can I control in the world? Not a whole lot, but I can write stories where I get to tell what the ending is. And the stories that I started to write started to lean into the supernatural and the horror, because that was my way of fighting it back against what was happening in the real world. So I wrote a short story called Buddy Holly and the Cold, Cold Ground, which is the first time that I introduced my character of Lincoln Bright, who is a sensitive. He can see and hear glims, what you and I would call ghosts or phantoms, he calls glims. And then I started thinking, well, I've been writing a lot of these short stories. Maybe I should try writing a full-length novel. And so that's what I did. And I have three Lincoln Bright novels out, Glims, Gaunts, and the Dead. Glims, Gaunts, and Gifts. And I'm currently working on the fourth one, The Dead. So, and those stories are about Lincoln trying to fight back against the darkness and preventing, kind of like the end of the world kind of thing.
Is there any webpage or Facebook group or something where we can follow your work and see what you're doing and eventually order some material?
You can find the books on either Amazon or on Barnes & Noble, though.
Okay, perfect. And also people can take a look at your Instagram. That's perfect. Yeah. Do you see yourself returning to acting, or are you more focused on your current initiatives or projects?
Because acting is such a visual medium, and I'm not very happy with how I look these days, it would take a lot for me to go, yeah, I think I want to be in front of the camera. I'm very content with doing stuff behind the scenes, and I really enjoy the process of writing and telling stories. So I think that's where my energy and my focus is. But far be it for me to say no when a lot of people are asking, "Can you please come back? Can you please come back?" So, yeah, we'll see.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. The door is not fully closed, or at least it's not locked. If you could be any Power Ranger besides Zordon, of course, which one would you be and why?
I think I would like to be the Magna Defender, just simply because of the design of the character. I think the Magna Defender, his outfit, the way he looks, his armor is just really very, very cool.
Pretty cool.
Or Doggy Kruger. I think that's a fantastic character. So yeah.
Nice. Have you ever surprised someone in real life by using your Zordon voice?
Yes, a number of times. Yeah.
Yes, that would be pretty cool. I'm gonna ask you later to say something for the audience and with
Oh
your
yeah,
Zordon voice.
sure.
So, what message would you like to give today to all the fans who grew up hearing you say, "Okay, bear with me, Alpha, bring me 5 teenagers with attitude." That was the sentence, right?
Alpha, recruit us a team of teenagers with attitude. I think my messages would be thank you so much for watching. We appreciate every single one of you. Because of you, we're still here. And hopefully I get to meet each and every one of you at some point. That would be a dream come true, to meet all the fans in the world. That would be fantastic.
Beautiful. So, my friend, I'm gonna thank you once again for allowing me to have this opportunity. I always say, and I believe I told you before on email or chat, I'm not a journalist. In my YouTube channel, I am not going with the trending topics or the trending names. I'm a geek, I'm a fan, and I'm using my YouTube channel to give me the opportunity to sit, meet, and talk with the people who really mean something for me, right? Because I grew up watching Power Rangers along with other shows, right? But to me, it's like, man, I can't believe I'm having this opportunity to talk with Zordon. Come on, it's Zordon.
Yeah.
Awesome. Lastly, if you don't mind, so my YouTube channel is El Cajón Retro, right? It's in Spanish. Not sure if you're good with that, but I would like you at least to say something to the community or the people watching at this video with your Zordon voice.
I'm probably going to mess up the name of the channel, so I don't think I should attempt that.
Okay.
But if you are watching this, thank you. We appreciate your views. So hit that like button and subscribe for more geek news in the future. And
Oh my
power
God!
protect you.
Oh my God! Sorry, I screwed the last part, but it was so cool. Thank you so much, man.
You bet.
All right, my friend. Once again, thank you so much for being part of this special. Means a lot to me, and I really wish you the best in the future. Means a lot to me. Thank you again.
Happy to do it.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Así que bueno, amigos, eso ha sido todo. Si les gustó esta entrevista, pueden dejar un like, compartir, suscribirse, toda esa cuestión que ya conocen muy bien. Y les voy adelantando que no es la última entrevista que tenemos con parte del cast de Power Rangers. No voy a adelantar nada, pero sí les digo que ya tengo cosas agendadas, pero esta vez con Rangers que sí, estuvieron en las peleas. Así que bueno, dicho eso, amigos, nos vemos la próxima.